Hey, what's up?
All your favorite artists.
Check it out. DJ Khaled.
This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars.
On hot7025fm.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's your main man, 360, the poet from the Morning Wood, and I'm here to talk to you about the Sci-Fi Center. It's your Vegas home for science fiction, horror, and fantasy. From comic books, toys, and posters to movie screenings and live events, they've got you covered. Located at 900 Cameron Avenue, Suite B209, give them a call, 702-900-4335, or reach them at thescificenter.com.
Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot7025fm.com.
What is going on, party people? We are back again. It's your boy Savage. This week we have a special guest. I'm excited. We're going to get into that in a second. You know, we always got to start out with God first. So the Bible verse I'm going with this week is Romans 8:31. It is, if God is for us, who could be against us? It's a big shout out to my pastor, Pastor Judd at Central Henderson. He says it every time they end the service. And he also encouraged me to get into talking in front of people. So just a big shout out to him. Now, I don't want to waste any time getting into today's guest. So a few months ago, before I decided on doing the show, before I started posting videos on social media, I came across a video to where a young woman was talking about what men need and their mental health and their peace. And she was on a great podcast. I'm not going to quote it because I don't have it down like that. But when I came across it, I said, I need to learn more about how she thinks, because I think that the world now needs more of that, especially in modern time dating. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself. But without further ado, we have that girl, Luli, on the show.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So yeah, as he said, my name is That Girl Luli. I actually am someone who has been doing this for a long time now. So even though that was a viral clip on someone else's podcast, I do host my own show as well on TikTok, currently live. I do a show Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm a motivational speaker, a life coach, an actress, a model, and I also now can put under my list director, producer, editor. I have a short film that you guys can watch on YouTube. It's called Microscopic, and it's actually about domestic violence, but from a male side. So I do understand that there is domestic violence that's normally kind of seen more with women, but this is something that I think a lot of men can really resonate with, you know, especially them kind of suffering in silence when it comes to surviving something like that. So I decided to do that last year. It's been out for about a year. So I know one of the biggest reasons why I decided to really speak on men's mental health, especially, is because I started taking care of my little brother after our mom passed away a few years ago. And raising a boy into a man, I realized how cruel the world can be and how early on boys are told that they need to be men and suck it up and you can't have emotions. And, you know, at the end of the day, you were created perfectly and you have tear ducts for a reason. Men are allowed to show their emotions, to cry, and to just be treated the same way that women are.
See, I couldn't have put all that in accolades. I couldn't explain that. So I'm glad I left that to you, because it would have sounded way different. But, you know, I think it's really interesting because a lot of times, right, men will advocate for themselves or what they believe women do, and then women will advocate for themselves and what they believe men do. And you hear a lot of times like men H or, you know, women H, you know, the same type of stuff. And there's really not open perspectives from either side that there's a healthy boundary of like, this is why I feel this way. This is the basis I'm coming from. And after seeing your clips and your videos, I'm like, okay, I think that she can come on here and give us a healthy view, and not to agree with me in any way, shape, or form. Is simply to give a perspective from a woman's standpoint that has seen a man go from a boy to a man, has seen what the world can do. And after we had that conversation, I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I definitely don't think this is going to be one show. I think that we're going to have one of many, maybe even collab in the future, because there's just a lot of stuff that we have to talk about. But one of the things I wanted to get into quickly with you, right, is especially based off of what you said with your little brother. So I heard a clip not too long ago that said women are taught what to expect, but not how to treat a man. And then men are taught how to treat women, but not what to expect. What do you believe about that?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, you know, the way that society is based, at least, right? So women are told, oh, well, you know, a man is supposed to provide and a man is supposed to be this and that in a relationship. But women aren't necessarily taught what it is that their role should be, other than the cooking and the cleaning and the things of that sort, which are beautiful in a sense, right? Like if you want to be in the old fashioned route. But what is it that you do for your man when it comes to his mental health, right? What is it that you do for your man and for your home when it comes down to really being an aid to that man, right? Because that's what we were created for, is that balance of also, if that man doesn't know necessarily where to go, how can you get him to the kingdom, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. It's not just about, oh, like, where's he going to get with success? Because me and you could split a pack of ramen at the end of the day, right? But many women they're not prepared for that, right? So they're not told what it is that they need to provide. And then with the man, it's like, well, what do you expect from a woman? It's the same difference. They're not understanding that these women are supposed to be more than just in the home, taking care of children and, you know, cleaning the house and things of that sort. There's also a depth that has to come in and a safe space that needs to be created between men and women in relationships.
Man, see, I wish more people thought like that. Here's the issue that I find, and I've actually spoke about it with E. So we gonna get her on here one of these times. Just best believe her mindset. You're gonna love this one. But I'll tell you like this: a lot of times, and this will lead to my next question, but it's the whether you believe relationships should be 50-50, or how do you think the financial, the household should be in relationships, whether it's man and woman or woman and woman, man and man. How do you think, with the gender rules, finances and everything else should play out?
Well, I believe that this is why you have to pick the right partner, right? Because this is all about communication and it's all about consideration, right? So if I want my man to be attentive to me and I want my man to behave a certain type of way with me, then I have to pitch in to some degree, right? If I want a man who's going to be home more often, or I want a man who's going to be more consistent with me in the relationship, then I have to be able to at least contribute to some degree, right? And this is why it's important to not just jump into having children with anybody or just jump into maybe moving in right away, right? These are conversations that need to be had, because if we're going to be in a relationship, maybe the first 3 years, 4 years, we're splitting things, right? Maybe you got it one time and I got it another time. Maybe we join in an account together and we start investing together, right? And then at some point, me personally as a woman, I know that I want to go the traditional route. I know that the day that I incubate for a man and I end up having a child, I want to stay home, right? So that being said, I have to now be like, okay, well, we can split things in the beginning, but at some point I do want to be provided for. But that also means that if that all falls on him now as a responsibility, that man needs like his clothes laid out when he gets home, right? He needs his lunch already packed for the next day. He needs to be offered a massage instead of just being told, hey, babe, do you think you can massage me? Like, there's a lot of things that come into the catering in that way if you want all your bills paid for and if you want a man who's going to be a man, right? And a provider and a protector.
Again, agree. Like it's crazy because it sounds like I'm talking to the choir right now, right? And it's cool because these are questions I've never asked you before, right? We've never talked about this before. This isn't preset on this, you know, I want you to agree with me. We never talked about this. What we talked about before was just about life and how men are, but we never really dove into relationships. And because this show's called Savage Conversations, and I told everybody from the get-go, I'm going to get vulnerable. I'm going to talk about personal experiences. So what I'll say is I was in a relationship previously that she wasn't working for about a year, and she was looking for work. It wasn't like she was just, I don't want to work. She was looking for work, but we had an argument about her working in the industry. I had gotten out of the industry at the time, and I didn't want her working in the industry just because to me it just didn't seem fair. So she was staying home, and her excuse was, "Why, you know, you're limiting me on my job, so that's why I can't find work." As if there's not any other job other than nightclubs, right? But whatever. But then we would argue because I'd go to work for 8 hours, or I would go work during the day, or whatever, however long, and go to school all day, and she would argue about not wanting to clean the house, or didn't feel like cooking at the end of the day, or didn't want to deal with the dogs. And I'm like, well, what value are you providing me at the home if you're not helping me financially? So then the end of the month came up, and I'm paying for all the food. I'm paying for everything because we're eating out more than we're eating in. So it's getting more expensive. I'm paying for all the dogs. I'm doing everything I need to do. Then after a long day of work, I'm cleaning, I'm doing what I need to do at the household, doing homework, and then I'm tired the next day. It's affecting my sales. It's starting to affect my livelihood, right? My mental health, everything. And I'll take accountability that it was my choice to stick around. So I'm not going to put fault on anybody. But what I will say is, after a while of these arguments, it just becomes very, how do I say this without sounding like a dick, but it becomes very misogynistic. It's like, what value do you bring to this relationship? Like, what are you here for? Like, if you're here to fuck me, like that's not enough value. Like that's not something that, because you can always go find a guy that has bigger and better, right? Or you can always go find a guy with more zeros on the bank account, and vice versa. For a decent looking guy, you can always go find someone else that's willing to fuck you. Like that's one thing. But I got to the point, it's like, look, I love you, I care about you, but you're arguing about the things that I need you to do at the household, but you're not willing to go put in to contribute in any type of finances, right? Like you're not helping on the outside, on the inside. So at this point, you're a dependent, and I'm gonna have to file you on my tax return. Like at this point, I have a kid and a half, and that's not a good feeling. And
the dependent is crazy.
I mean, yeah. And the crazy part is like, I don't want to believe that she used me, because it's not how it started. When we first got together, she was spending a lot of money on coming to see me, right? And flying out or whatever. But it just got to the point where I'm like, things changed, but you're letting me fail and drown, and then complaining about my energy when I get home and not wanting to do anything. And it's like you said, if you're going to be home and taken care of, then you're going to step up at home. Like, I'm not expecting, I am old school, but for me to ask my woman to be like, okay, I need you to have my lunch packed for tomorrow, I need my clothes folded and ironed. Like, I don't expect all that. But like, one of the things I've always asked for, because I've been a dancer for 9 years, right? So when I come to the home, I'm used to being at the club, and I'm used to being lusted after and hit on all night from random people, right? And I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but the ones that like me, whatever. But none of that matters to me. I want to come home and feel like the only man in the world is me, right? I don't want my dog to be more excited to see me. I don't want my daughter to be more excited to see me. I want my woman to be like, my man is home. That's who I've been waiting on. I've been thinking about you. Like, the little things like that. And it's really like, I feel like if I have to explain that to you, then what are we doing? Like, if you don't want me more than some random woman at the club does, like, you don't have to worry about me being disloyal, right? You don't have to worry about me looking for other people at the club or whatever. To me, it's like, just make me feel more wanted than they do, because they don't matter. You do. But I look at it the same way as a man. Like, if I know my woman's in this type of industry, right? If I know my woman's on radio, or if she's an actress, or if she's, at the club or whatever, I'm going to make sure that she never needs for nothing sexually. She never needs for nothing as attention wise. Like, I'm always trying to stay on her mind, right? Not because I'm competing with the world, because I'm trying to be the best nigga I was today compared to yesterday. Like, I want to be better today than yesterday. And that's to me, it's like 50 first dates. Like, I want you to fall in love with me every day, every new day. It's how it's supposed to be. I got to chase you every day, not because you're not obtainable, but because I want you to see the value that I see in you today, because I see who you can become, and I want to help you get there. But it's been a nonstop argument in my past. So, a long story long, how do you feel inside the home? Do you think, with my scenario, what would you say, or what advice would you give me as a man coming to you, because you're a life coach, as a man coming to you in these scenarios? What would you tell me to do if I was in a situation like that?
Well, first I would tell you, communication, which you obviously already said that you did, right? You let her know that this is something that you did not like. And it was also something that you, in your words, you put up with for about a year. Right. So I think that's more than enough time, ample time at that, to give somebody not only the ability to change, right, that aspect of themselves for the relationship, but also for them to kind of lean on you. Because whether we want to say she used you or not, at the end of the day, it's giving very much she used you. Right. Whether it's, that she was getting love or she was getting whatever it was, she wasn't reciprocating. So there wasn't an equal give and take in the relationship. Right. So after the communication, I would advise someone to walk away from a situation like that. Don't give ultimatums. Don't threaten, because that's when people start holding resentment, or they end up just doing what you want them to do for X amount of time. Right. And then they go back to the same pattern, because at the end of the day, that's who they are in that moment, like in the core of, their spirit. So, and I'm telling you this because as a woman, when a woman truly wants to be with a man, and she truly says, okay, this is the man that I respect above all, because we know that men value respect over love. right? So when a woman truly respects a man and really values him, she's going to do everything and anything. You won't have to ask. That's why, like, I get what you're saying when you're like, I'm old fashioned, but I don't expect my woman to, you know, have my clothes folded and whatever. I'm saying those things because I already love my husband and I don't got one yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not married. I don't have children. However, I already respect and love my husband, that I know that if he's out there busting his butt for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, you know, I want him to come home and, like you said, feel like the most important man in the world. And that being said, there are certain things that if I'm home not doing anything, we don't have children, or let's say we do have children, but that's tended to, that's almost like my job now, right? If I was working at a daycare center, I have to feed the children, I have to do this and that. But then when the kids leave, what do I have to do? I have to clean up that classroom and prep it for the next day. So it's the same difference. It's just a lot of women see it as like, oh, well, that's not fair because I've been with the children all day. Now I have to tend to another man. Like, if you don't feel that way, you shouldn't be with that person. It should just innately come out of you, right? Like, my little brother still to date, that's my little brother. And I say little, but he's grown now, right? He's about to be 21 years old. When my brother comes home, like the other day, you know what I did? I cleaned my brother's room top to bottom and I laid out his favorite snack. So when he came home from college, he knew that he was appreciated, so that he wouldn't come into a room and see a messy room and feel stressed out, because at the end of the day, he already has a lot going on his plate. When he goes off to school and he's out there, he's a man. He's betting for himself. He's out in the world. I can't do anything for him. So when he comes home, I want him to be like, this is my home. I feel safe here. I want to be here. Right? I don't want my man coming home and now feeling so stressed out about his day that he wants to go out to the bar now, or he wants to go hang out with his boys, because that's how temptation walks in through the door. And I never condone cheating, but I can understand why some people come to me like, Luli, listen, I'm not a cheater, but I cheated. And now I don't know what to do. My girl's mad at me. She feels some type of way. And when I start really digging deep into the situation, there's always some sort of neglect in there, whether it's the woman cheating or the man, right? There's some sort of neglect. It's just men don't speak up as much because men are willing to sacrifice their happiness more than women are in a relationship. 50% of divorces are initiated, or 60 or 70% of divorces, whatever the rate is, by women. And most of the time, women are saying, what? I'm not happy. Even though happiness is a fleeting emotion, right? You should be looking for peace and you should be looking for joy in your relationship. However, when people sit here and they look for happiness, things end. And most women are doing that, but most men will be like, no, I'm keeping my family together, especially if they have children. And then they step out once or twice or whatever the case is. And again, I'm not condoning it, but the women never take accountability, right? They'll always say, well, he's a dog. He ain't this, he ain't that. I gave him a good meow meow and I laid it down or whatever. Like, that's not enough. It's not, you know what I mean? Meow. Like, yeah, the meow meow is not enough. Like, you feel me? Because there's plenty of good meow meow out here. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna start saying that from now on.
Meow meow. Meow.
So it's funny that you said this, right? So I have talking points for every show. And one of the things that I decided that I wanted to ask every guest that I have was something that you already answered for the other side, which was, what do you value more, love or loyalty, right? So as soon as you said it, I was like, that's crazy, because literally it's my talking point next. Like, that's the next thing I was going to ask you. So what do you value more? Is it love or loyalty, and why?
Honestly, loyalty, because with loyalty comes love. I feel loved when I'm treated with loyalty, right? And that's in all regards. I think a lot of people, you know, they misunderstand relationships when it's intimate. But then when it comes to family or when it comes to friends, they give and they expect that back, right? But when it comes to a relationship, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, no, I want to be this way because, you know, let's talk about women, for example. As a woman, there are certain things that I do want in a relationship and I have non-negotiables, right? However, those things are now counteracted with things that I know I want to give to my man, and that most likely are going to be his negotiables, right? Like, if my man doesn't want me going out to Miami with my 3 single girls because I'm taken, I'm not now going to call him insecure because of that, because I don't think I would feel as comfortable with my man going with his boys to Miami and they're all single and he's the only one in a relationship. We all know, if you've been to Miami, you know how that world works, especially if you're a pretty girl. You could just be sitting on the beach and they offer you to go free on a yacht somewhere and pop bottles with some dudes that you don't know. I don't think my man would feel comfortable with that. So if he says no, then no, it is. Yes, daddy, whatever you say. Like, I don't understand why it's so hard. Like, now there are certain things that, okay, yes, like when I say I'm in the industry, it's like my modeling, my acting, you know, my motivational speaking, my life coaching, I'm in the limelight. However, when it comes to certain things, there has to be boundaries when you're with your person of like, okay, at a certain time, these aren't business hours. At a certain time, you know, we have to have a balance where now that person feels comfortable. But if you're working a 9 to 5 and you think it's okay for you to take these friendships out out of the state, out of the country, and your man can't go, or it's with single people and it's not a couple's vacation, I think that's important for you to understand that the loyalty matters more than the love.
I would agree. So that's honestly my answer too, in the sense that I would value loyalty over love all the time, and for the same reasons, right? If someone's loyal to you, and we talked about this in the last show, or I said loyalty is not gray. It's black and white. Either you're loyal or you're not. There's no gray area. You're not loyal sometimes, or, when the appropriate. No, it's either you're 100% loyal or you're disloyal. It just is what it is. It's the same for friendship, relationships, and there can be different levels of loyalty, right? Like my loyalty to my mom is a lot different than loyalty to my best friend. But at the same time, loyalty is loyalty. Like I would still do anything for them, and I would never betray them, right? Mm-hmm. And, we talk about betrayal only can ever come from someone that you felt you were loyal to, right? Like, and you felt that it was loyal to you. And in a relationship, if you have a woman, and Kevin Gates talks about this, so I love listening to some Kevin Gates interviews, but he talks about, he's like, language is primitive. Right? Energy is universal. Everybody can understand energy. He goes, people can love you and lie to your face. They can love you and tell you whatever you want to hear because they love themselves more, right? That's the problem, right? So when you value love over loyalty, you forget that person, most people, not all, but most people are self-sustaining. Meaning they're going to do whatever they can to keep themselves above float, which you're supposed to an extent until you get a wife, right, or a husband, because even when it comes to family and friends, right, so like my mom is my best friend. I love my mom. We're super close, right? Same thing with a few of my homeboys, like super close. The minute I get a wife, the only person above her is God. Period. Like there's no, it goes God, wife, children, family. And a lot of people get that mixed up because they're like, well, kids are supposed to, no. God gave, if you look at it biblically, right, God gives marriage couples gifts of children. But again, you're supposed to be married first before the children if you're following biblical principles. And again, I'm not a devout Christian. Like I'm a disciple. I'm working on myself. I don't read the Bible like I'm all the time. I'm still a sinner. I'm still working on it. But you're supposed to be married first, which is a covenant agreement in front of God. It's not so much the marriage license down at the courthouse. It's God seeing you two as conjoined as one soul, which means at that point, you're supposed to love yourself, which is, i.e., your partner, as you would love yourself, right? And as you do so, you follow God. God comes first. Your wife or spouse comes second, which includes you. You become one. And then it goes kids, family. And a lot of people, they'll mix that up. And they'll go, well, no, like my brother and sister are supposed to, they're supposed to come first. And my friends here, I've known my friends for 30 years. And now am I supposed to, I've only known my wife for 3 years. Like, no. You got this mixed up. But again, it comes down to loyalty, right? Like, because that's not about love. And I talk about this with people too all the time, right? Time does not equate to knowledge. So the amount of time I've known you does not mean I know you better than someone else. I could know you for an hour and know more about your current life than someone that's known you for 10 years. It just depends on how much you're willing to be vulnerable and let me in.
Absolutely.
And I think when people start to realize that loyalty comes first, right? If you're 100% loyal to me and you're about me, right? And I know that whether you're in Miami with the girls or whether you're at home waiting for me, your decisions will be different. And I think you nailed it on the head, right? If I'm with a girl and she's like, oh yeah, I had this trip planned to go with my girls. We're going to Jamaica for a girls trip and all the girls are single. If I have to tell you that that's probably not appropriate in our relationship, I'm irritated. And I'm not irritated at you. I'm irritated that I didn't set that boundary clear enough, right? Because ultimately, at what point did you think this was comfort? And then to say that, like you said, right? Well, don't be insecure. I'm not. But again, I don't walk into the hood and start shouting at people. Not because I can't fight or shoot, because I'm not dumb enough to put myself in scenarios where bad things can happen. Amen. It's the same in a relationship. If I'm in a relationship, I got a girl, and we have this trip to Colombia where they love black men. That's what I heard. I don't know. I ain't never been, but this they keep telling me to go to Tijuana or Colombia, and I'm just saying.
I'm crying.
But,
don't go. Don't go.
But
don't do it.
if I'm in a relationship, you don't have to ask me to cancel it. Either you're going or I'm not. Like, Amen. That's just what it is. Like, it's not going to be it won't have to be a discussion or an argument, because I think about my partner how I would want to be treated. So if you want loyalty, you want reassurance, you want words of affirmation, you want physical touch, you want me to think about you before myself, then I'm going to do so without you having to explain it to me. It's not that difficult of a concept. Hey, you wouldn't be okay, or I wouldn't be okay with you going to Miami with the girls because we're together and we're still kind of fresh, and I really don't want that temptation around you. Plus, you don't even drink like that, and they're all single, and they're not going to make relationship choices. So in that case, like, I think you should stay home. It's going to be the same thing for me, vice versa, right? And until you get to the point to where, obviously, I mean, married couples can have that trust, and I would love to have that, but I can openly say I have trust issues in the industry I've been in the relationships I've been in. I've seen too much betrayal and disloyalty. I've seen it in the club. I've seen the most loyal woman that comes down here. She doesn't even drink like that. She's been with her husband since they were in high school. Like, they're all together. Everything's good. And then the right dude comes up with the right amount of game and 2 shots of tequila. And now she's the fantasy he's always been waiting. I've watched it happen in person. Like, I've seen it. She's never been with a black guy before, but, you know, he's the right one. And there's some guys out here in Vegas that have game, that will talk with the right amount of time, can talk most women that aren't sure in their loyalty off the edge, right? Now, if you're 100% loyal, doesn't matter if it's Chris Brown, doesn't matter if it's Jenna Aiko, doesn't matter if it's Janet Jackson, righty? Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter who it is. They can't change that, right? But there's also, like, again, I have some friends that are poly, and they are loyal to their partner, but they have open discussions about what their boundaries are. And I have envy for them, not because they have multiple partners, but because their level of communication is amazing. A couple of my friends that are polyamorous, that are married, that they understand their partner so well, they know what to do and what not to do around certain areas without their partner ever feeling away because of their level of communication and understanding boundaries. I think people can learn from that. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is something that you had mentioned earlier that I speak about on my chat. So I just want to drop a little gem. You mentioned, you were like, well, you know, I'm still a sinner. I think it's important to acknowledge in your Christian walk, right? And, you know, a lot of people get misconstrued that Christianity is a religion when it's actually a spiritual walk of life, right? It's a way that you live, because the Bible itself tells you not to believe in religion, right? So it's not necessarily, and we can get deeper on this on another show, another podcast, but it's an actual way of life. That being said, our Savior dying for our sins means that not that we are, like, basically we are sinless, but we can sin. Right. So he died so that he could take away the fact that we were sinners before, or, you know, the people that came before us. But now we have the ability to still sin because we have free will. And the reason I'm telling you that, and the reason I say it to my chat, is because a lot of people will carry that on their back, like, well, I'm a sinner, and it makes them feel like they might not be as worthy for the kingdom, when in all actuality, you're worthy by even speaking and bringing God into the foundation of what you do to begin with. Right. And you are worthy by even waking up another day and choosing to be here. And you're worthy by wanting to follow God and find a wife in that regard. Right. So I think it's important that people who have sinned or might sin in the future, or, you know, are sinning in this current moment, to understand that they're still loved and they're still accepted, and that they have to make that choice every day to now continue to walk that narrow path. Right. So I don't want people to ever feel like they're being shunned. I'm not saying that you did that. I just don't. I don't even want you to feel that way. Right. And that was something that I had to come to terms with, you know, in my walk, was like, well, I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner. I used to say that all the time. And then finally I was like, but I have a choice, though. And do I sin every day? No. And have I sinned before? Yeah. And now I'm walking differently. So I'm not carrying that title of I'm a sinner just because I've sinned. Right. So, you know, to keep going with what you said. Of course, with, you know, to keep going with what you said, you asked me about poly personally, you know, since we're being transparent and honest here, there was a point in time when I first stayed single after my mom passed away that I thought about it because of how terrible this dating scene is, right? And I was like, okay, well, can I see myself like in that regard of, like, at some point I thought that I might have been bisexual. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that just coming from where I came from, I was a little confused about. Right. And then I finally, you know, sat with myself and I was like, okay, well, what do I actually want? Do I want to someday have a child with a man who's now going to have a child with possibly 2 or 3 women that now are going to be in my home? Do I want to split that family up if things don't work out, if one girl has to go her separate way, and whatever the case is? I never wanted a blended family from the beginning. Right. And that's why, like, you know, I stayed away from it in that degree. But also when we look at one man right? Regardless of his financial status and all that stuff, because a lot of people that do poly are doing it because rent is expensive right now. Let's be for real. But also, if we're looking, like, let's be for real, Inky. But if we're thinking about like a man, you know, having now to, it's already difficult for a man to go out and provide and do XYZ for one woman, and now we're giving him 2, 3, 4 women. And now we're expecting that man to provide emotional stability, financial stability, and also just protection in general for every single woman. I don't believe that one man can split himself that way and that each woman's going to feel fulfilled. I feel like each woman has her own agenda in that, and she gets what she wants out of it. And now she gets to have extra on the side if she's also open, you know, and the man allows her to go out and do whatever.
Right.
So,
well, and I get that. So just so you know, we have 10 minutes left on this one. We're definitely going to be bringing you back. So we'll close out in about 9.5 minutes. But
nice.
I get it. I mean, I thought about being poly for a little. I thought about being poly for a little while. The issue that I came across was this, right? I'm territorial, and I have a hard time. I do have codependency problem, which I'm working on, right? I end up depending on the other person's happiness to make me happy, sadness to, you know what I mean? Like it's an issue that I've been working on avidly so that I don't depend on anybody for anything, right? I can just continue to move in my own spirit, my own light, my own happiness. But the issue that I found myself is like the sexual aspect of polyamory sounds great, right? But then like you said, right, when you start talking about the intimacy more than sex, more than just, you know, loving, when it comes down to like feeling a person's love languages and understanding them as a person and being there as a friend, sometimes, you know, you'll have, if I couldn't imagine, clearly I haven't had one successful relationship. So I saw an interview today, and a guy said, your only successful relationship will be your last one. The rest are failures. Amen. And I get that, right? And you can look at it prospectively and be like, well, they're not failures because they're a learned lesson. But like what he's saying in literal terms is if they were successful, you'd still be in them. So
you feel me?
if you're going to break this down, right, clearly I haven't had a successful relationship or else I'd be married, right? That's where I'd be at. Thing is if I haven't figured women out now, what is adding 2 or 3 going to do for me? Like, all I'm going to do is give myself a headache, right?
Aneurysm.
That part. I'm a gain weight like I gained the last time. Your boy was big. If you look at pictures in June, I was stressed. Yeah, I was stressed eating with some Popeyes biscuits, no honey, no butter, no nothing. I was in there.
Just dry.
Man, what? Just dry. I was inhaling sandpaper. The noise, not the meow meow noise.
No.
So to me, here's my thing, right? And I'm excited to have you back again. I think that we can dive deeper on a couple things, but one thing I want to end off with, right? I want to have one more discussion between you and I on here while we have a few minutes. What advice would you give women in modern day, right, on landing a husband? Not just landing a husband, but being a wife. Like, what advice would you give them if you were to say, hey, like as a consensus, what's their best way to get them in and keep them in other than meow meow?
Face yourself. Like, as a woman, accountability is going to get you that husband that you want. So what I mean by that is there are a lot of women that have darkness and you know, trauma, you know, and things that they just haven't dealt with, right? Like the daddy issues, the mommy issues, you know, maybe being molested when they were a kid, getting cheated on, certain things that they just never actually let go of. And they just continue to put in that bag that they carry and that they bring into their next relationship, right? And they think they might have gotten over it because they haven't actually sat in front of the mirror and looked at that woman and said, you know what? You do have anger issues. You are quick to snap. You don't know how to be submissive, right? Not only to a man, but to God. You have not submitted your life fully and given it to God. You are still having sex before marriage, right? Regardless if you think, oh, well, I have a situationship with this person and I'm in control. You're not in control of anything if God isn't the one in control. You only gain control when you give it all up and you give it to God. And that's a mask that a lot of people wear in general. But women, like I had a mask on, right? There was a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with in my life. And to the world, I was, you know, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a life coach. I couldn't let people see me crack, right? But then eventually I was like, wait, hold on. How am I supposed to motivate people or teach them in their life how to go if I'm not an example myself? So I took my mask off and I dealt with my issues. And now I know I'm well on the way to find well, not even find, but come across my husband. right? Because my husband's here. Like, it's already happening. So, you know, that's the advice I would give them, is like, really look at yourself and stop blaming all the other men that you've dated or anything outside of yourself, your father, your mother, for how they raised you, etc. And really deal with those issues and be okay with that, right? Forgive yourself. See your strengths in that, right? They're not weaknesses, they're strengths as well. And how is that now going to aid you in being the best wife possible, the best mother possible? A lot of women are focused on the relationship and not what it takes, right? Which is inner work first.
Yeah, and that's something that I talked about as men the other day too. It's like, if, you know, men and women, if you're looking to be married, it's different than looking to be a husband or to a wife, right? Or be a wife. You have to put in that inner work first. Do you provide the steps that your wife that you're looking for would want, right? Do you do how these qualities, these capabilities? And a lot of people don't think about that. Well, I want to, you know, and I'll just use this example because it happens all the time on social media, but like, I want a 6-figure nigga. I want him to be in the gym. I want him to have everything, you know, I want him to have a car, a house. I want all these things. He can't be a work in progress. I actually had a woman call me a work in progress before. And it's like, that's interesting. Do you possess the qualities in which that man would want?
Well, a lot of people project too, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, like, not even like, do you possess those qualities that a man would, not even do you possess those qualities that a man would want, but are you the partner that you're searching for? Right? Because you're saying these things, but there's women, and this is no shade to all the ladies out there, right? But there'll be a lot of women out here who are saying these things, but they're broke. They're not in shape, right? They don't know how to submit. Like, there's a lot of things that you also have to do as a woman if you're asking for these things. Right? Because now all these women are in a group asking for the same thing. So who do you think's going to win? It's not going to be it's going to be the girl who's a little more quiet, a little more reserved, the girl who's done the inner work, the girl who's also getting her own, so she doesn't necessarily have to ring a man out for everything he's got. Right?
And that's the thing too, is I think you nailed on that. You have to face yourself. What qualities, like with me, right? I have anger issues. I have codependency problems, you know, even qualities that some people will find attractive, right? Like, a lot of women want the hood nigga. Like, you want the dude that's willing to get down in the street, right? Willing to hop out in the car until you and the kids are in the car. Now these qualities are now toxic, right? Well, that wasn't smart. It's like, well, he needed to heal those. I need to heal those. I'm him. I'm that guy. I'm the guy that hops out in the street at a stoplight when people are acting crazy. But I have the discernment not to do it with my daughter in the car, which means I have the capability to control myself. I just pick and choose my time frames, and that's not a good quality if I can't, control my emotions all the time. But these are things I'm working on, right? These are things that I'm open and honest about, and the vulnerability. I always like to end, because we got about a minute and a half left. I always like to end with a quote. Right. And I didn't do it last time. I had it at the beginning, but I would like to ask you to end with a quote before our next show, because we're gonna bring you back, since we're airing this one on Thanksgiving. We're gonna bring you back the following week, so we're gonna bring you back on the 5th, so next Thursday, and we're gonna get deeper, because we're just gonna hit the ground running. So give us a quote, that girl Luli, and then give us your handles. Tell people how they can find you again.
Yes. So this is actually biblical. I don't know exactly what passage it is, but it is: one man plants, one man waters, and God allows it to grow. So right now, if you're watching this or listening to this, we are planting the seed. We are giving you an example, and we are showing you who we've been, what we've done, and what we would like in our lives to help you align yourself. It's on you to now water that seed, right? And then God will allow it to flourish and grow. So really take that with you, and really just listen to this over and over until it really seeps in, but face yourself. Realize that these are things that you want, and in order to have, you have to actually do inner work and inner healing. And again, like I said, I do my TikTok show Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can catch, more of me on there as well. Once you subscribe, you also get access to the Discord, so you have even more access to me and my platform. You can find me as That Girl Luli, Luly, on all social media platforms. And it's That Girl, because everyone always asks me if it's That Girl. No, it's That Girl Luli. And you will see more of me, okay? Prepare to see me everywhere.
Yes. Luli, thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to having you again next week.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And y'all tune in. Y'all heard it here. We're going to be back next week. Same type of conversation. So if you want some savage conversations, be ready.
Be ready.
Later.
See you later.
Hey, Hey, what's up, what's up?
All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name. DJ Khaled.
This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars.
On Hot 702.5fm.com.